How are you? Hello? Oops, here. Whoop, there we go. Now we'll try. Hey, Dan, how are you?
Steve's playing a trick on you again, Dan.
I'm doing okay. Actually, driving down and running down the road today.
All right, well,
Dan is our resident fantasy racing, NASCAR fantasy racing expert, and writes columns for both NASCAR.com and YahooSports.com, and is probably the preeminent NASCAR fantasy guy out there. Dan, we're going to Kansas. Then got all those Dorothy jokes. I'm not even going to throw those out there. This track is, I think, of the intermediate tracks, to me, is sort of unique. At least has fewer tracks that are similar. Maybe Chicago is the closest. Would you agree, or am I all wet?
I think there's a lot of benefit into treating the similarly configured mile-and-a-half tracks as a lot the same. Yeah, they're unique. They're all a little bit different. And Kansas is a nice track. It's the 400-mile race, the 400-mile length, the wide corners. You can get some too wide racing there, so it's got some pretty good competition. But I think you're still going to get quite a bit of benefit looking at some of those other 1.5 milers as well, though.
I'm really anxious to see how this new car performs there. It's been a revelation, I think, on the intermediate track so far, and the lower banking at Kansas, or the relatively lower banking, I think might make for a real interesting race. Now, how that affects fantasy prognostication, I don't know, but that's why we have you on the show. You can steer us all towards making the right picks.
This race is actually pretty easy. If you did well last week at Texas, double down, keep those same guys on your roster, you're probably going to do well here as well. Last year, these two races were in back-to-back weekends as well, and there were, I think, 22 drivers. I don't have my notes in front of me. Like I said, I'm actually on the road today, so
okay.
There were 22 drivers or so that swept the top 15 in both races. There were 3 or 4 drivers who swept the top 5. There were another 3 or 4 drivers who finished between 6th and 10th in both of those races. So there was a remarkable consistency between the Texas spring race and the Kansas spring race. You can't do better than just looking back to last week.
hey, Dan, let me ask you this. So far into this season, 7 races in now, are you getting a feel for how the guys are doing with this new car as opposed to the old car? Is there anybody that's really got different numbers this year from last year or previous years?
Well, you've got Earnhardt, who's doing really well, but I don't know if that's momentum or if it's the car. You've got Kyle Busch, same thing. I don't think we yet know whether or not someone's figured out the car or they just have momentum. You do have a couple of drivers like Jeff Gordon who's struggling on the intermediate track, or did until last week. And I'm a little concerned about the broken hub last week. They finally got to running strong, but at what cost? Did they have to do something that was really wild with their setup? And is that what broke the hub? Or is that a coincidence? I tend to be fairly conservative. Where those things are concerned, I'm less conservative when I make my picks than when I recommend what other people pick. I would avoid Gordon until you know whether or not he's going to be okay on the intermediate track. But I tend to roll the dice a little too often myself.
Mark Martin has been in this game a long time. Jeff Gordon has been in this game a long time. But I guess the question I have, are those two guys, even though they're grizzled, seasoned veterans, are they in different stages of their career almost? As you look at them, Mark Martin is just kind of the guy who's out there to be happy-go-lucky, and whatever he gets, whereas Jeff Gordon's still looking to win races. Not to say that Martin's not looking to win races, but I get the feeling that those two guys are
Gordon's
different.
working on a legacy. I don't think Martin is.
Right.
Mark Martin would differ with you. He's out there to win races. I think he does have a happy-go-lucky personality, but he's focused. he wants to win. He wants to run up front. He's not willing to do some of the other things that some of the kids are willing to do to get there. He's not going to ruck somebody up. He's not going to bump them out of the way unless they start it. And I think that's one of the things that makes him so good is in something like Group B is he's a nice, consistent driver. He's not going to take too many chances, and he'll show up in the top 15 there at the end of the week. Jeff Gordon, I don't know. His Achilles heel continues to be a lack of aggression on restarts. And so long as there are restarts late in the race, so long as there are short runs at the end of the race, he's getting hurt. And I don't know if he can overcome that. The trend of races lately, it seems, and I don't know if it's NASCAR with trying to make sure that the competition stays close together to those last few laps. But the trend seems to be that there are a lot of cautions at the end, and that's hurting him. That's hurting a Jeff Gordon. That's helping a driver like Brad Keselowski or Kyle Busch, who are extremely aggressive on the restarts.
So who are your A, B, and C picks for this week as we go to Kansas?
In A, I think you got to stand pat with someone like Jimmy Johnson and Matt Kenseth. They didn't do all that well last week, but that was because the B drivers just ran amok. Jimmy Johnson was the best A driver, and I think he was the 8th or 9th best driver overall in the Yahoo game. In B, Kyle Busch is a streaky driver. You hold on to him until he runs out of gas. You've got Brian Vickers, I think you can count on now. You've got Greg Biffle, who came into last fall's race with a long top 10 streak, including a pair of victories. He's got to be there on your B list. And in C this week, you've got you've got Elliott Sadler and Sam Hornish Jr. making one-off start. So I think you got a pretty good, easy choice in Group C. You're going to take one of those two drivers, probably Sam Hornish.
All right, if we got to make you pick one guy as Mr. Winner, who's it going to be?
I'm going to go with Greg Biffle again. I think he still has something to prove from that 2007 race. He's won once again. He's got a couple of third-place finishes, but he didn't do all that great last year. I think he's going to be motivated, and I'm going to go with Biffle to win.
All right, Dan, as always, we thank you so much for your input, and we appreciate you spending time with us while you're on the road and didn't have all your notes in front of you. Didn't need them. You're a plethora of information.
And anybody out in El Paso, there's a World of Outlaws race out here tonight. So if anyone's out here, come to the dirt track.
You going to that?
I am. I'm working they lost their PR guy. I'm helping them out for a week.
Awesome. Have a great time, Dan. Hopefully you're not getting this cough that I've got.
Stay
got allergies, so I got the same cough.
All right. Take care. We'll talk to you next week. He's Dan Beaver. You can follow him on Twitter at